Patch 12.1 is bigger than a mid-season filler patch, but not because its feature list is long. The changes that matter are the ones that reshape what you do every week. A real outdoor progression zone, a new raid and dungeon season, a replacement for old-style world bosses, and a fundamental reset to how incoming damage is supposed to feel. Blizzard's final August 6th notes make the scope clear. Some additions arrive with the Curse of Ula'tek update, while the raid, Mythic Plus season, and several reward systems begin with Season 2 on August 18th. That split matters. This is not one launch day checklist. It is a new weekly loop that opens in stages. The Coiled Isle is the center of that loop. Blizzard describes a new outdoor zone tied directly to Zul'Jan's story, with a surface, an underground space inside the mountain, public events, world quests, local stories, and a custom progression tree. The important part is not simply that there is another island. It is that the zone is built to keep feeding multiple kinds of progress. Curse surges regularly spawn rare elites across 5 rotating locations. Killing one unlocks venom fishing at that spot. The vaults of Ula'tek add rotating public events that build toward a boss. The zone's talent tree mixes player power perks with quality of life tools, including ways to reduce the venom's effects. Officially, those are separate activities. In practice, they create a reason to move through the island rather than park at one vendor between queues. Layers may be the most consequential experiment in the entire patch. Blizzard calls them an evolution of world bosses. Instanced encounters, found at specific locations, with a summoning stone outside, and scaling difficulty up to flexible Mythic for 15 to 25 players. Blizzard's official overview also shows 4 difficulty choices: World, Normal, Heroic, and Mythic. That is a very different promise from tagging one outdoor boss in a crowd. My read is that Blizzard is trying to keep the accessibility of a world boss while adding a real progression ceiling for organized groups. If the tuning and rewards hold up, layers could become a reusable bridge between open-world play and raiding. If they do not, they risk becoming one more weekly box. The format is the important part. World boss content is becoming instanced, scalable, and intentionally repeatable. Season 2 then expands the instanced side. Altar of Fangs is a new 3-boss dungeon available through Mythic 0 when the update launches. It joins Mythic Plus when Season 2 begins. The full 8-dungeon pool is Altar of Fangs, Murder Row, Den of Nalarak, the Blinding Veil, Voidscar Arena, King's Rest, Ruby Life Pools, and Temple of Suthralis. Those 3 returning dungeons are also receiving design and quality of life updates. The consequence is variety, but also relearning. Half the pool comes from Midnight, 1 slot is completely new, and 3 older dungeons return with changes. Players are not just pushing the same routes with a seasonal affix swap. Route knowledge, pull planning, and even which old mechanics still matter will need another pass. The Venomous Abyss arrives with Season 2 as an 8-boss raid ending with Ula'tek. That is the headline encounter space. But this video is not going to repeat the detailed Myth 9 gearing breakdown from our earlier analysis. The broader point here is cadence. The patch gives the outdoor zone room to establish itself, then moves the endgame into a new raid and dungeon season 1 week later. The system change most likely to affect every pull is the 25% adjustment. At max level, player health and creature damage both increase by 25%. Blizzard explicitly says the goal is less spiky damage and more satisfying healing. Their reasoning is that bursty healing forces enemies toward bursty damage and reaction checks that feel stressful rather than satisfying. So this should not be described as a flat 25% difficulty increase. Blizzard is increasing the overall numbers while hand-tuning encounter abilities around the new baseline. It is also adjusting several tank and damage dealer, healing, and absorb spells, so their relative value remains similar. The intent is more room between healthy and dead, not simply larger hits on a larger health bar. Whether live tuning delivers that smoother damage profile is one of the biggest questions of the patch. There is a related combat change hiding lower in the notes. Blizzard says it is reducing the throughput of major damage cooldowns for several specializations while increasing their steady-state damage. The stated goal is to keep cooldowns impactful without making every moment between them feel sluggish. That will not affect every specialization equally, but the philosophy matches the health change. Fewer extreme peaks, more meaningful play between them. Raid rewards are also changing, and the useful headline is simpler than the full loot spreadsheet. Raid Finder, Normal, and Heroic Great Vault rewards now begin at the first step of the next harder difficulties upgrade track. Blizzard's example is a Heroic Vault item starting at Myth 1 of 6. Mythic Raid Vault rewards generally begin at Myth 6 of 6, with separate rules for very rare items and the final bosses. That makes the weekly vault feel more immediately upgradable for raiders and reduces some of the gap between winning an item and making it useful. The exceptional Myth 9 items, Catalyst Inheritance, Void Cores, and Venom Curse details are covered in the dedicated loot video linked below. Here, the meaningful broad change is that a Raid Vault reward starts closer to the ceiling implied by the content that earned it. Nightmare Mode is another sign that Blizzard wants the Coiled Isle to survive beyond its campaign. Season 2 adds 4 serpent-themed prey targets and hunts on the island. Ossified relics can activate haunted braziers to summon Ralkala for group-oriented rewards. Afflicted and tormented souls from delves can accelerate active nightmare hunts. The Season 2 Prey journey adds decor, cosmetics, and mounts. More importantly, the Curse of the Isle unlocks a permanent nightmare mode that players can toggle to raise the danger across the coiled isle. That gives the zone a lasting opt-in challenge layer instead of letting its difficulty collapse as gear improves. The final notes also add 3 new delves, including a Nemesis delve, and let bountiful delves push beyond Tier 7 when Season 2 begins. Together, these systems make the island a progression space, not just a story backdrop. There is also a quieter accessibility experiment. Training Grounds expands from bot battlegrounds into 3 versus 3 arenas against bots. It is not an endgame pillar, but it gives players a lower pressure place to learn arena positioning, targeting, and the rhythm of a small team match before entering a live queue. There is a second tier of meaningful changes that deserves dedicated coverage rather than a rushed recap here. Housing gets shareable blueprints, roaming pets, and new neighborhood endeavors. The cooldown manager expands to trinkets, potions, racials, and better group pings. Battle.net and Discord linking can connect guild chat across the game in a Discord server. Those features matter, but they solve different problems and should be judged on their own. That is why patch 12.1 looks larger than filler. It changes the outdoor loop, the organized group ladder, the dungeon pool, the raid cadence, the damage model, and the weekly reward floor at the same time. Blizzard has confirmed the structure. The analysis is whether all those pieces produce a healthier season instead of a busier checklist. Now that the final notes are out, which change do you think will matter most in actual play? Layers, the smoother damage model, or the coiled isle's permanent progression loop?